And good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to today's incredibly unbelievable show that known as the Xbox Factor Podcast. Listen, folks, I have not been excited or as excited as I am today to have this particular show for a multitude of reasons. First of all, the topics on hand are absolutely incredible. Some of the best writing I've done. I don't usually pat myself on the rear, but today I have to. And of course, we have a bunch of guests because some of our panel members are down and out. And of course, I'm talking about Archimedes. Our brother Archimedes is currently in the ER in Germany. And he's still battling COVID, and it was so bad for him today that he felt it was necessary to go to the hospital. So we, of course, want to wish him an incredible, speedy recovery and many prayers and well wishes for him and his family as he fights this very, very serious sickness, and hopefully he makes a full recovery. You're going to see that I decided, because one of the big stories is Ryse, Son of Rome 2, I wanted to do about an hour and a half of footage. Folks, I have to just pause the show for a hot second. Now, I know that what I'm seeing, I know what I played, but my question is, do you know what you're seeing? This game was a launch title in 2013, and do you see how freaking good it looks? It's almost absurd that we have not had a sequel. It's almost ridiculous that it looks this good. I mean, what else can I say? But I do want to get into the introductions, and we're going to introduce someone that has never been on the show before, someone that has been a prime, someone that also just recently launched his very own Xbox program, which I want him to talk about. N64 Josh, welcome to the program there, brother.
Hey, thank you so much for the warm welcome, and I'm so glad to be here. I really appreciate it. So, as far as the new Xbox stuff, I've started a channel and actually launched the website yesterday. It's xboxnow.tv, and Xbox Now is a podcast. It's a YouTube channel. I may or may not have set up the TikTok, but I haven't put any content out there yet. So, and it's just Xbox news and community stuff. I've had a few interviews with Riley from he's the social media manager for Walmart Gaming in Canada.
Nice.
And we all know what they're infamous for, right? And
yeah, the leaks upon leaks.
Yeah, so that was a really fun show. And then I had King David from the Iron Lords. He joined me for an episode this week, and it's just I mean, I've been an Xbox fan since the OG, and basically, I mean, I was big into achievements for the 360, and then the one came out and it became my Destiny machine. It's pretty much all I played on it. And then
Lord Cognito would be very happy to hear that, sir.
Yeah, well, we met at E3, and what was funny is I was like, we had to have some words because I was starting a Destiny podcast, and I had recorded my first episode with Cosmo, the community manager.
Nice.
Before he was the community manager, and the show was called The Last Word. And as I was getting everything set up to launch it, his show came out called The Last Word, and I was like, no.
Oh man, that's fine. That's wow. That's some behind the scene baseball stuff.
Not my, literally, I love it. That's a story.
Yeah. So we hit it off when I met him at E3. It was at the Bethesda presentation 2019, and then I picked up a Series X, and here's the thing. My wife and I had gone out that morning, and I bought the red Switch. Right now, I don't need another Switch, but I thought the red one looked cool, so I got the red Switch, right?
Yeah, that makes two of us.
And so it was my birthday, all right? And Wario64 happened to tweet that Xbox Series X's were available at Amazon, so I was like, well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. Well, the order worked, right? I was able to get it. So at that point, I'm like, I tell my son, I'm like, hey, there's a package arriving. We were heading out of town. Like, make sure it doesn't sit on the porch too long. All right.
Oh my God.
And then we get in the car with the wife, and I'm like, so I may have bought something. She's like, what did you buy?
I love it.
I'm like, well, listen, I got like the Twitch funds will cover it once they come in. You know, she's like, what did you do? I'm like, I bought an Xbox. She's like, oh, yeah, makes sense. I'm like, all right, phew. Okay, we're good. So I, because those are scary times when you don't know what the how the missus is gonna react. So, but of course she was cool with it, and so I decided, I'm gonna start making content with it. And Xbox is killing it right now, and I'm having a blast getting to know the community and getting involved with the community.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, listen, and I talk about this all the time. Every community has a toxic fan base, right? And it's not just video games. This is in sports. This is in ping pong. This is in pool, billiards. Every sport, some thing that somebody enjoys doing will have a toxic community. It's a very small amount of people, but of course, like anything that allowed us, I will say this, and I will die on this hill saying it: the Xbox community by far is not only my favorite community, but it's the most giving, it is the most receptive, and most inclusive. And I think that is what's super important about it. Again, toxic stuff aside, the actual people that are here in the chat, and we have already almost 200 people here, and we just were 6 minutes in, they are very welcoming. The chat I have is probably one of the best in the business. I would dare say it challenges anyone. Because everyone here just comes to have fun. And of course, Lethal Papa, who's a good friend of the many people in this community, especially the podcast community, is patrolling these streets and making sure that the a-holes get banned. And last show, I think he banned 6 people. And you know what? He could have did 12, and it wouldn't have mattered to me, because those are the people you don't want here. But I appreciate you being here, brother, and I appreciate you sharing the story. Let's go to someone else who has an Xbox podcast that he goes and has each and every week at Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mav, you have the ultimate Xbox podcast. It's gaining ground. You went over 1,000 subs, which congratulations on that. And you just jumped in at the last minute, and glad to have you. Welcome.
Thank you, Boom. Yeah, it's awesome to be here again. VJ hopped in here to see him. It's good to see you, VJ. I don't think I've been sitting on a panel with you for a while, so good to be here with you. And Joe as well, man. We've only done a few of these together, possibly, maybe even 1 or 2. I can't remember for sure. But
yeah, I think 1 or 2. I think 1 or 2. Yeah,
definitely 1 or 2 for sure. Yeah,
and then Josh as well. It's awesome to be here with you, dude. This is gonna be a fun show. I saw like the thumbnail and the topics and stuff that you got lined up. I'm excited to talk about some of this stuff. It's
gonna be great, dude. It's great to have you here. Obviously, we have a nice full panel with a lot of big opinions, and we cannot wait to get started. Joe, are you ready to be introduced, my brother? Or, you know what? Maybe he stepped away. He's having some mic issues. So let's get VJ here. VJ, with the topics, I know that you have sat down and probably wrote a Bible. There's no doubt about it. And we're looking forward to hearing this elaboration, because you do bring it each and every week. Welcome to the program there, my brother. How you feeling?
I was actually really good, Boom. But the news regarding Archimedes has sort of thrown me a little.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning. He's getting oxygen. He's currently he's already received, from what I understand, some prednisone, which is a steroid, if you don't know, and that should help him along the way to his recovery. Hopefully, he doesn't have to stay in the hospital. And if he does, hopefully it's not for too long. But I'm going back and forth, and I will advise our private DM, because I don't want to, just spill everything. Some of the stuff is private, but I'll keep everybody up to date with what's going on with Archimedes.
Yeah, it's interesting how reality and life has a way of just throwing you off center, right? Just as you get familiar with it, and especially when it's someone in the community you get to know, and that somebody ends up becoming, either your next door neighbor or even a close friend or indeed a brother. But I think, along with everyone else, I wish him and his family well.
Yeah, of course, and obviously, I'm confident that he's gonna pull through. He's not as old as I am, so I have faith that he's gonna that he's gonna be okay. And
Absolutely.
And we'll keep everybody advised of that. Joe is having some camera issues, so we will come to him next. But I immediately have to jump into some of these topics. I mean, this is what the people tuned in for. Look, here's the thing. This particular topic is one that is, and if our brother Pong Soul was here, he would love this, because we're going to take a stroll down to Speculation Town. Again, always 75 and sunny in Speculation Town. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Jez Corden, friend of the show, who is a writer for Windows Central. You know, he's also a part of the Xbox 2 podcast with friend of this show, friend of the community, Randall Thor 19. He tweeted about a swirl emoji that everyone in Xbox Nation was buzzing to figure out what the H it meant. Well, those running theories were, of course, the Ubisoft connection, maybe something with Splinter Cell, maybe Ubisoft Plus. And then, of course, everyone equated that conversation to Sega Dreamcast. Is all of the Dreamcast catalog coming to Xbox Game Pass? Is Microsoft buying Sega? And of course, then nothing. Now, here is where we take a roll down to Speculation Town. This is my theory, and I say that with a capital MY, because no one said this until I did. And if it comes true, well, you know that Detective Clouseau has got a promotion, because while watching TV with Mrs. Boomstick, a commercial for the new James Bond film, No Time to Die, which is set to release in the U.S. in October, I got the swirl back in my mind, and then I had an epiphany of the highest caliber. And at the start of every James Bond film, right, there is a spyglass watching James Bond walk by, and he, of course, ultimately turns towards the camera, fires a single shot, and then, of course, I decided to put one and one together and equated that the swirl had something to potentially do with the announcement from IO Interactive. Now, if you don't remember this announcement, they are working on something called Project 007, which was confirmed to be a James Bond game. And they made this announcement on November 19th of 2020. Now, here is what IO Interactive had to say regarding that announcement for James Bond. In collaborations with MGM, EON Productions, and Delphi, IO Interactive is proud to announce that we will develop and publish a brand new James Bond video game, Project 007 working title. Features a wholly original Bond story and will see players earn their 007 00 status in the very first James Bond origin story. Project 007 will be powered by IO Interactive's proprietary Glacier technology and will be made for modern systems and platforms. Now, of course, Josh, I got to go to you first on this. You are our esteemed guest. Listen, this is a shot in the dark, but I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to kind of toot my own horn here. This is one of those conversations that no one was having before I made mention of it. And again, I'm not a toot my own horn kind of a guy, but that swirl was, confirmed to not be Ubisoft, was confirmed not to have anything to do with Dreamcast. Could it, in fact, have something to do with IO Interactive's James Bond? And could Phil Spencer and Microsoft threw a bag of money at IO and said, hey, listen, we're going to give you this very big bag of money. Tell us how much we need more to put in here, and we want 007 as an exclusive. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, this is you're hitting me with this stuff for the first time, honestly. Let me say this. One of the first pieces of content I created for the Xbox Now, the first article I wrote for the website, actually, Phil Spencer's got the Switch behind him, right?
Yes. Yep.
This keeps happening. James Bond is an absolute cluster when it comes to their licensing stuff. It's like this company has the license for the home distribution, and this for this, and Bond can't do this, and he can't be killed, and blah blah blah. There's so many things. But I immediately go back to GoldenEye. Right? And there is a completed HD version of GoldenEye that was ready for the 360, and one person at Nintendo got cold feet at the last second. Anytime I hear anything about James Bond, all I want is to see the GoldenEye remake, just like Perfect Dark came out on the Xbox. I want to see that. And if what you're saying is true, and Microsoft has the opportunity to have the Bond IP and their current relationship with Nintendo, like, all my mind can think about is the possibility of this GoldenEye remake that just got leaked on the internet about 2 months ago. The full game. If that's, and to get into your theory here though, if it is a new James Bond game, I just hope it's good. They've all suffered ever since GoldenEye cast a massive shadow even on the 64, and none of them have been that great. Quantum of Solace was a decent multiplayer game. I think it was like the Call of Duty team or something that worked on it, and so it had some decent stuff, but it still felt like a movie game that was just kind of thrown together. You know what I mean? So hopefully, I'm always hopeful that we'll get a James Bond game that will be awesome.
Well, I mean, listen, again, this is a bit of a shot in the dark. No confirmation. I was sitting there watching TV with the missus, and the new commercial came on, and I'm like, wait a second. James Bond and the Swirl. Mav, let's bring you into the conversation here. Again, we know it's two things that are, we know two scenarios are not coming true for it, and that's the Ubisoft connection and the Dreamcast connection. But the James Bond connection has yet to be debunked by anyone. And I've been advertising the hell out of this show. So if someone would have been like, "Hey, no, Boom, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about," and I would have been like, "Well, okay, it's just no reason for name calling, but it is the internet, so it's expected." What are your thoughts on this? Could it actually mean James Bond?
You never know. I mean, dude, you're going down speculation town again, right? Which is, we spent some time there last week a little bit. That was fun. This would be amazing. Regardless of anything, like Josh was saying, we're getting the IO Interactive game, right? And I'm excited about that because it is IO Interactive, and I think it's going to be good because of that, right? So if this was the thing, right? If this was the thing that they're getting as far as like a AAA exclusive, it would be a big get. That's for sure. I would assume Game Pass, day one and all that kind of stuff, right? So, man, I hope that's true just because I'm selfish and I want to save money for things to come to Game Pass, right? And I know that I'm going to play this regardless. So, number one, I think the game's going to be great because of IO. Number two, I think it adds up. I think everything that you're saying adds up to a possibility. But man, it could be so many other things too. This one has been. I've been racking my brain around this thing that's like I know that people know, and it drives me crazy. I know that Randall Thor knows. Yeah. I know that Jez knows. I know that Miles knows. Yes. I know that these people out there, they know what this is, and they just won't tell us, and it's driving me crazy. And I keep digging for
Jeff
clues.
Grubb
man.
knows.
Yeah, Jeff Grubb knows. I keep digging for clues, and they keep dropping these little hints, these little puzzle pieces. And when you say that, now it's like, okay.
Let's be honest, man. It's annoying. It's got it's actually getting on my nerves now. It's just like, just tell me.
Did you see Jez's tweet last night or this morning, with all the emojis and stuff?
It's like, okay, you want engagement, but come on, man, just tell me the thing.
I need to know, man.
Yes.
I need to know.
Yeah, listen, no, there's no doubt about it. Again, right now we're going to have to wait on this. I'm hoping it's true selfishly because I want to be able to say that Mr. Boomstick Double Barrel Gaming came up with it first, and of course, no one will ever give me any credit for it. But that is okay because you know what? We don't do these shows for credit. We do it for #fun. Joe, let's get your opinion on this. Again, you've said it. It's getting annoying. There are some people that actually know what's going on. Listen. We actually heard Jez say that he would feel really bad because it's such a big announcement to pull it away from the studio and from Microsoft. So I think that this thing has weight. The question is, how much weight?
then don't tease it. Actually, Boom, I don't know if my camera was on, but when you said that, my eyes lit up. I'm like, that actually makes. I think Boom. All credit to you. I'll give you because that's the most sense I think not just you but anyone's ever made. Ever. Because if it isn't the Dreamcast symbol, if it isn't the Ubisoft thing, yeah, there's only one other frame that swirls. And even Grub was like, it's not what you think it is, in terms of Dreamcast, but it is cool. And I think, yeah, what is cool? James Bond. So I'm kind of right there with Josh in terms of like, okay, realistically, we have not had a good James Bond game like just it since Nightfire. I liked Nightfire. Okay, I'll die on that hill. Like we haven't had a good one in so long.
It really has been a very, very long time. And you know what? Coming off of Hitman 3, and
they're the best. They're the best to do it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
And so, like, my excitement isn't like, oh, it's coming to Xbox. My excitement's like the team that's making its IO. And if Microsoft is just like, okay, how much money do you want for this? Because people may point out, oh, like the movie is MGM, but it's also a Sony Pictures movie. What about like Spider-Man? How does that correlate? Whatever. MGM has all the rights to it. They license all the rights to different companies. It is weird. It is like a cluster. So yeah, it would make sense if Microsoft walked over and they were just like, listen, James Bond is an IP that needs new life in it. It could kind of be similar to like The Show. It's just like, let's put it on Game Pass. If it's not an exclusive, I think the big cool thing is it's a Game Pass day and date, or it's Microsoft marketed.
Yes.
Or if for the Xbox fans out there, it is that killer exclusive. Because to me, the thing that excites me the most is IO is expanding its team.
Yes.
It's expanded its team to Barcelona. They announced the creative director for this game, and something tells me that we will see maybe a slight, like title screen at like an E3. Nothing crazy. I'm talking like Metroid.
Yeah, you're not going to get
gameplay
gameplay or anything, but you definitely get maybe the Swirl logo. You know what I'm saying? And then the Xbox is like my design. I put the Xbox symbol in the middle. I mean, that would be kind of dope.
Yeah, do that, and bam, you kind of wipe your hands of it. It's like, hey, listen, James Bond is coming to Xbox, and that would be really awesome. Yeah, so yeah, I'll take a visit to Speculation Town on this one. I don't even think you're too crazy to think of that. I think honestly, you're the first person that has said that to me, and it makes the most sense. So I'm with you on this, Boom.
So
Joe, it's funny
too, though. Sorry, Boom.
Yeah, it's okay.
Is like regardless, like on Xbox, we're getting that game either way, right?
Oh yeah.
So the benefit would be Game Pass, right? Yeah. That would be the takeaway, and then also the exclusivity for Xbox and PC.
But I think it's also for Microsoft. It's something to kind of prove in like, how do you make deals? Like, I don't want IO to be acquired. I don't think IO wants to be acquired. They've had those partnerships in the past. It's not panned out for them.
Yes.
So I think Microsoft, this is a way for them to say, hey, listen, we could also work with y'all. That's the one strength we see from Sony with their second party deals, whether it's the game of the generation, which is Bloodborne, which it's been 2,228 days since the launch of the original, or like whether we're seeing like with Returnal right now. I think Xbox has something to prove, saying, hey, we don't want to be defined by our second party deals with Scalebound. We want to be defined by James Bond.
Yeah, no, Joe, that's a fantastic point. Listen, there's a tremendous amount of super chats that have come in, and I have to get to them, but I got to get the VJ on this, and then I'll read the super chats after, and then we'll get to the second topic. But real quick, Urban Ninja 313 drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he says this, and I didn't know this. I did not know this until he just put this in there. Randall Thor said, it was a game from someone who just put out their game, i.e. Hitman. Well, there you go, folks. More
right.
confirmation that hashtag boom was freaking right. So listen, anyway, VJ, you've heard what everyone had to say. You have the show notes in front of you. Again, sometimes we have these as writers, as producers, as gamers, as just fans of a genre. We have these epiphanies for no reason other than something flashes on the screen and it just electrifies your brain. That's what happened with me. Literally, I went from seeing that commercial to finding some James Bond logos to put up to start advertising the show, because I honestly believe that's what it is, with zero insider connection. For you, does 1 and 1 equal 2, and how big of a deal would it be for Microsoft to secure a 007 exclusive?
Actually, there's quite a few important points that Mr. Badbit was making, and I don't think Sony have got anything to do with the upcoming 25th anniversary James Bond movie. I think Universal have actually swiped the distribution rights away from them. So that was just on a side note.
Oh, did they really? Because I know there was like a talk of changing hands. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it changed hands. I mean, I could be wrong, but as far as my memory serves me, which is not great these days given my age. So, yeah. But just sort of getting back to what Boom was saying and the panel was saying. Look, I don't know IO Interactive that well, but they are a fully fledged publisher in their own right, and I saw that. I was wondering. I said that they don't really have an infrastructure for distribution, and so I was surprised to see that, given that they'd broken away from or did a management buyout from Square about 4 years ago, that they'd actually partnered up with Square for the marketing and distribution rights in regards to Hitman 3. Look, I'm not really sure how many teams or games IO Interactive have in sort of active development or full production at any one time. I guess nothing can really surprise us anymore, right? Given the way, or given the swagger that Xbox have sort of unleashed, right, in entering this generation of an investment, I should say as well, and this, and opening up this generation of consoles. So I find it hard to think that it will be exclusive unless Xbox manage to purchase the Danish outfit somehow. And as I say, who have only just become independent, and again, as I say, under difficult circumstances just a few years ago. As I say, nothing's impossible. I just don't see the James Bond game being exclusively tied to the Xbox and PC platform sort of carte blanche. From what I know about Eon Productions, they are not really comfortable allowing this kind of exclusivity or closed situation in terms of when they're doing sort of consumer licensing. That division and their perspective in terms of how that should be, how that should work, it's kind of counterproductive in terms of what they believe in. And we've seen MLB, right, change its model or renegotiate its deal with Sony quite aggressively, right, even taking on publisher responsibilities. I just can't recall a time that's ever happened, right? But then again, that's just on the face of it. But digging a little bit deeper on the whole situation, from IO's perspective, I would assume that all resources will be on this James Bond game at some point in time. I don't see them abandoning development PlayStation 5 or stunting their development teams' know-how development or in-house tech and priceless experience with the PS5 hardware, because we're at the beginning of the generation. And especially if as a developer or as a company, what if you have to go back to multi-format development sometime in the future? It's quite risky for an independent company that seems to me to be seeking to go public at some point, perhaps following in the footsteps of CDPR and companies of that ilk. I guess the question then becomes, can Microsoft persuade and convince or a party or a company to sell part of something that's really important and valuable to them? And the answer is, in this present day, more often than not, I guess the answer is yes, right? And can Xbox strike a preferential marketing deal with the publisher and no doubt Eon, who watch over their IP, especially James Bond, like a hawk? And I would say, again, yes, but it is a little bit difficult, as Eon are a complex I would say they're a complex anomaly, right, to fathom, let alone deal with, right? Eon, and I can't really stress this, and I have a very tight and robust approval process. Almost, very difficult. I was going to say something rude there, but sorry. When it comes to especially when it comes to James Bond and the consumer licensing initiatives that they have for that property, but could Xbox strike a deal for James Bond to be in Game Pass on day of release? Again, you wouldn't put it past them, especially if they have an open or sparse quarter that needs strong content, right? And I'm just going back to what Phil's ambition is, right? To make sure that every quarter there is, as you say, Boom, the youngsters call them bangers, right? And and by the time, I don't know when the release date for James Bond is, but or whenever the game's going to come around, but I would assume that the sort of revenues that Game Pass will be generating at that point in the future, when this game actually comes to light or comes to release point in time, the sheer number of subscribers and the revenue that Game Pass is generating, you just can't put it past Xbox or Phil, right? Because given the amount of cash flow that they will have at that time, it won't be from a lack of trying, because or a financial issue, right? You'd have to say that, right?
Yeah.
And look, this is just totally a guess on my part, and I'm only looking at, in terms of the hyper investment that Xbox are making right now, and from the investment that's coming in from the community, right, on a monthly basis. Finally, I would say that could Xbox perhaps convince IO and Eon to allow Xbox a 1-year exclusivity window like they did with Tomb Raider in the beginning of the last generation. But again, it comes down to all parties understanding and benefiting from the deal and what their long-term plans are. And you would have to say that right now it's more of a strange, abstract and an anomalistic deal, right? That if that actually occurred, especially when it comes to Xbox. And the reason why I say that, because if you don't already know and you haven't been tuning into the show, Xbox are no longer a traditional or conventional platform holder.
Yes, that's correct.
By any stretch of the imagination. And you've got to get not on board with it, but you've got to get in sync with that. And I see a lot of people aren't yet, Boom. But Xbox, I think, would endeavor to procure something like James Bond. It's kind of actually a really good fit for the company and for Game Pass. But if they are unsuccessful in terms of being able to achieve that, being able to achieve, being able to get a 1-year exclusivity, again, it kind of rubs against the green for me, because would Xbox look to execute a business deal where that by means in terms it's not in Game Pass and exclusive to the hardware, and you've got to buy it at $60 and it's not in Game Pass until at some point in the future, probably after the PS5 release of the game is released. But as I say, these are just my thoughts, and by no means are they sacrosanct or deserving of veneration. They're just food for thought or lighthearted consideration.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you always bring a great conversation to the conversation. We definitely appreciate that. I definitely want to move on to the topic number 2, but I have to get these. I mean, just the amount of super chats have come in. It's mind blowing. The first one of the day comes to us from Ima Easy, who drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "I just received my second Xbox Series X. What a day! Well, dude, congratulations on that, dude. That is." Man, that's like finding the 4-leaf clover in a garden of clovers, because it's these new consoles are so hard to find. The fact that you didn't get just your first, but your second, good on you for the tenacity to keep looking. Gerald Mack, very good friend of the show, he drops a $5 super chat and says, "Good morning, Mr. Boomstick and panel. It's really nice to see the faces that match those voices. Boom, wink, wink. You know what? Hold on a second. Let's get onto camera here, folks. Hold on just a second. I'm the only one out on camera except for VJ.
Are you going to bring out Cobra Commander?
I'm going to bring out Cobra Commander. Here I am, folks. Here I am. You can see, unfortunately, the house isn't set up. The pillows are there for when we chill in the evening. What's up, everybody? You see the face. I got my my Dreadpool t-shirt on, one of my favorite ones. My mohawk isn't done. It's cut. I buzzed it. It looks good. It's just not fixed. No product in the hair. Welcome to the show, everybody. You can see I got an Xbox Pope created controller here, because I got to support my brother Xbox Pope. He is one of the best in the community. And all right, so we'll keep the camera on as I continue reading I got to remember, hopefully I don't pick my nose live on the air. Dirt Griggity drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "What's up to the panel and the people in the chat?" Well, what's up to you, Dirt? Hopefully you are enjoying the show so far. Good friend of the show, and really, what an incredible addition to the Xbox Ultimate Podcast. Lady AF is here. Darling, thanks for hanging out. She drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Says, "Good morning, panel and chat. So excited to see Josh on the show. Such a fantastic creator and friend. So happy to see him active in the community. Yes, it's a pleasure to work with him, and I can guarantee you he's getting the golden ticket to this show." Davikin89 drops a $2 super chat and says, "Boom, that makes a lot of sense." Well, thanks for that, brother. Hopefully it comes true. Caper Grant 692 drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "Absolutely loving Second Extinction. Dude, I'm 5 hours deep, and I was almost late for the show because I was playing and I had to get out because I don't want to lose all the stuff that I was able to find. My God, that game is so good. If you have not downloaded it, it's in Game Pass. Please support Systemic Reaction's newest incredible multiplayer game in Second Extinction. It is fan-freaking-tastic. He says, "Been so pumped for the game since watching your interview with the team, and the wait was worth it. I just want to say thanks for the intro to the game." Oh, no problem, dude. Listen, I want to thank them. They gave me the interview, and I was happy to do it. He drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "Oh, and by the way, have a great day." Well, thanks so much, Caper. Smitty Smith, our brother, bringing us back to church once again. He says, "Boom, the Swirl, the Swirl is a new weather simulation game." I love it. That's great. Urban Ninja 13. Okay, of course, 313. He talked about Rand said that the game is by someone that just put out a game, i.e. Hitman. Viper the Red, this is sad. He says, he drops a $5 super chat, says, "Thank you for doing the podcast today. It is helping me so much. My family today, unfortunately, had to put down our family member and their dog who was like 16 or 18 years old. Dude, my heart goes out to you. There is no... there's nothing sadder than losing a pet. As a matter of fact, I had a cat many moons ago. Her name was Boo Boo Kitty. And yes, we were young when we got her. So Boo Boo Kitty was her name. It is an adorable name. But you know what's crazy? She used to play fetch with the mints. If you made the noise, the ruffle, she went crazy, and she would literally go fetch it, bring it back, and drop it in your hand. We picked her up in a very small mom and pop pet store that said, "Please take her. All she does is cry." And they charged us $5, and she was with us for almost 19 years. Wow! Yeah. So when she obviously passed, it was very sad. So yeah, my heart goes out to you, Viper the Red. And Toto Dope drops a very generous $5 super chat and doesn't leave a message. Dude, if you want to leave a message in there, I will read it, and you don't have to leave another super chat. Thank you for the generosity. But let's get on to topic number 2. And folks, here we go. I mean, we got to talk some Starfield again, folks, because obviously some new information has broken. That's why I have on there breaking news. And it basically almost confirms that the game will in fact be unveiled at E3 2021 and be released for holiday 2021. And in a recent Xbox 2 podcast via Pure Xbox Insider, and I like how they call him an Xbox Insider, Randall Thor, said that Microsoft and Bethesda are trying their hardest to get Starfield out by the holiday this year. He added that the game's development is essentially done, and Bethesda is currently in the process of just polishing the game. Meanwhile, he also stated that Starfield will, without a doubt, be on the be an Xbox console exclusive. And according to the story, they say, why shouldn't that surprise you at this point? Honestly, it's a Microsoft-owned property after all. So here is a quote from that podcast, and he says this, and of course I'm talking about Randall Thor, friend of the show. "I've been told by a very reliable people that Starfield is and will be 100% an Xbox exclusive. I've even made bets about it, and I don't bet unless I know. I'm willing to bet." So I'm really, really confident that Starfield is not only releasing on Xbox when it does, but I've been told as well that Microsoft is trying their hardest to get the game out this holiday. They really want Starfield out this fall. Now, the game, from what we understand, is basically finished. and they're currently, squashing some bugs in a particular, they call bug squashing mode right now, very much like Halo Infinite. It would be a big boon for Xbox Game Pass, and also to have Starfield and potentially a new Forza Horizon 5 along with Halo. Man, talk about a back-to-back-to-back win. I'll go right to Josh. Josh, Randall Thor, the one thing I have to say about Rand, and I know Rand very well, he is someone that very rarely loses a bet. In fact, I would even dare say I don't think he has ever had in my presence. And listen, he knows Miles. He knows, obviously, Jez Corden. These guys know people. They know Jeff Grubb. They have all these circles that some of us smaller shows like us just are not really privy to. And he would not say that publicly and make that statement if he wasn't 100% sure. Where does your excitement level go for Starfield launching this holiday and, of course, being an Xbox exclusive?
I remember seeing this game when it was initially announced and everything, and being very I was like, oh, it looks awesome, and then completely forgot about it. To be completely honest, it just completely slipped my mind. And then when you put your notes up and you were like, oh, it may be a holiday or maybe coming out this holiday, I was like, oh man, I'm looking forward to I want to go back and rewatch some of the stuff and get familiar with it again. We know that Xbox needs games right now, right? They really could use this for the holiday season. And I think you mentioned it in your notes about, the possibility of Halo and Starfield. And then we know there's something happening with Forza as well. It would be a great holiday lineup for Xbox if they can get this game out. And I mean, I feel like Bethesda kind of gets the pass on games getting launched and not being finished. I think they're still working on Skyrim, right?
Oh, they're going to be working on Skyrim for years to come. No doubt about that.
So yeah, I'm looking. I think it would be great, and I really hope. I really hope it happens, and I hope it's great.
Yeah, listen. It's a big bet. It's a new IP. They haven't had a new IP for Bethesda in many, many, many years, especially a Todd Howard new IP. And I think that's super important. I honestly cannot wait to see what this game looks like. I mean, we had some, supposed leaked shots, which is one of the shots I used for the thumbnail. If that in fact is the game, it looks good. And that's just a thumbnail. I can't wait to see it in motion. Mav, let's get your opinion on this. Both Jez Corden and Randall Thor, who do the Xbox 2 podcast weekly, they're very rarely wrong. And if Randall Thor is talking about this from people that he knows, and he knows quite a few people at Microsoft, I'm confident that he knows what he's talking about. For you, are you excited that we do get Starfield this holiday, and more importantly, as an Xbox exclusive?
Absolutely, man. So we had Rand on our show actually last week.
Yes, she did. It was a fantastic program. Great
it was
stuff.
A lot of fun, and he dropped some nuggets there too. But Starfield is a much bigger deal than a lot of people realize, because it's a new IP, right? And they haven't talked a lot about it yet, because that's just what Bethesda does, right? They hold their cards close to their chest until they're ready to release. Okay, so all we've gotten from them so far is that really short teaser, and then Todd Howard say this is one of his dream projects. It's Fallout. It's Elder Scrolls in space, right?
Yeah.
It's what we all have been begging for. It's one of those things you go back 10 years ago, even 15 years ago, and you say, what if these guys made a game like Mass Effect, right? Or in space, like Fallout or Elder Scrolls style? It'd be amazing. And it's coming true, right? It's coming true. This is a dream scenario for me because it's a Todd Howard creation, right? It's a Todd Howard creation where he's putting all into the world building and all of this stuff with the whole big team that they have there. So Starfield is going to be massive, and when it launches this holiday exclusively on Xbox, it's going to be a freaking huge deal. And I think it's going to become. Remember how big Skyrim was when it launched?
Dude.
I mean, it was like the biggest thing in gaming that year. And I think we could potentially have a similar situation with the next massively new RPG from Todd Howard's team over at Bethesda.
Well, I have to correct you on something. And Pong, I know you're listening at work. It's pronounced God
Howard. I know. God Howard.
I just want to make sure that is represented on this show, because God Howard is going to get interviewed by Mr. Boomstick. I don't care if I got to kidnap that man. He's coming over and hanging out here.
He's one of the
Hold on just a second. No, I shouldn't say kidnap on camera. Joe, let's get your opinion on this. Yes. Listen, look, Starfield there's a lot to process here with Starfield. Okay, more super important is that it's a new IP.
Sure.
Right. It's something that Bethesda has not had in a while. Yep. Todd, and this is Todd Howard's baby. So we understand that it's going to be something special just based on his tenacity as a designer. Right. I think this is going to be a big deal for several reasons outside of it being just from God Howard. It's an Xbox exclusive potentially, and it's one of those games that has the potential, folks. We don't have it in front of us, so we have to be really cautious on the eggshells that we're walking on. It's a new IP. Okay, it's being made for the new consoles, which is fantastic. But more importantly, the Xbox exclusive. Now, they have not had in a long time a big AAA bomb, and they're potentially going to have 3 of them, right? If they can somehow, because, Game Pass is the conversation, a lot of good things, services, the consoles are very powerful, they're doing some incredible things. Absolutely. But we got to talk about the games for a second. And something that Sony does very well, that continues to do, is put out incredible games. And it would be such a story to have Microsoft put out all 3 bangers, one after another, meaning Halo in November. In October could be, pick your poison, whether it be Forza, whether it be Starfield, and then, of course, then change that order for September. To have back-to-back-to-back AAA bombs that are reviewed really well, potentially, is really going to change the conversation for Xbox, and I'm hoping they can put this together. What are your thoughts on this?
There's been disrespect when we talk about the fall releases. A disrespect on this show and all the other Xbox shows. And I'm going to tell you why. We're not talking about what is, to me, a way bigger deal than Starfield. Age of Empires 4 is coming out, y'all.
Yeah,
like we're freaking forgetting about it.
You know what, dude? I actually forgot about that game.
It looks so good. You could put your archers on the walls now. That's a huge deal, all right? No, honestly, if you told me, Joe, what are you really excited for? I would, like, this fall, I would probably tell you, A, Halo is my most anticipated game still this year. Yep. And then, like, B, Age of Empires. And the reason why is because, like, I've seen both of those games. I know exactly what both of those games are. And I cannot get excited still for Starfield. I think it's like, okay, cool. It's a new IP. I've seen a screenshot or 2 of an astronaut man outside of a space station. And, like, that's it. It's kind of like when, like, I feel like maybe the Kojima effect has had its run on me. And now I'm just like, man. Where it's like, here's a super vague thing. You're going to get excited for it. Why? We told you you're going to get excited for it. Get excited about it. And so I can't do that anymore. I've seen enough Norman Reedus' hugging babies to understand that, like, the hype cycle is away from me now. So I'll be excited for this game when I see it. Like Mav, you sold me on a first-person Mass Effect-esque game. Oh, I'm there for it. I'm here for it. If you told me there's fantasy elements to this game, I am 110% on board. But I swear to God, if this is like we're astronauts on the moon, like, I'm out.
Base building thing, I would be out there too.
I'm so out. I can't tell you how out I am. I'm out. Like, if I'm part of NASA, I want to be part of NASA or the Space Force. I want to be. Actually, that sounds kind of cool, but I want to be like. Yeah, a Commander Shepard. If there's no fantasy element to space, I'm immediately oot. So
Can I chime in again real quick, Joe?
Yeah, go for it, Mav, please.
Todd Howard's MO, right? And that thing is world building, right? It's not just creating a game. It's creating a universe that can support multiple games in the future. That can support lore based around it, right? So you're talking about creating religions, gods, races. You're talking about creating planets that we've never heard of, galaxies. Who knows exactly where this is going? But if they were working on this in all of those aspects for a long time before the game even went to development, that's what has me like super hopeful.
And that gets me way more excited. I'd also like it to be third person. I'd like them to change the perspective a little bit. I'd like them to do, I'd like them to be different. If it's just like, this is astronaut Fallout, this is, astronaut Skyrim, I'm like out as well.
Like, I think all of those games usually switch between third and first, right? So Skyrim, Fallout, you can always switch between the two. So
but it was always funky. Like they played around with it, but it was always like, that type of animation. Mm-hmm. So like to me, like, I want to see them be different. And look, Todd Howard, great developer, though I'm not usually a fan of his stuff. Like, I know he has a lot of talent when it comes, definitely to the world building and such. This game needs to be big for them because I feel like with what was Fallout 76, and though it wasn't their studio, but Todd Howard put himself out there, and him even realizing the error of the way that was 76. But even like with Fallout 4, I remember when Fallout 4 came out, people were like, it was good, but like, man, Witcher showed them how to make a better RPG. Like, I don't want them to just tack on things that other games have done. I want them to go out there and truly innovate on something different, like Skyrim did. Skyrim was one of the first like mainline RPGs that said you don't need a class, just pick a weapon, pick a spell, and that's it. And that was such a big thing at the time. Do something on that caliber. That's where I'll be impressed, because a name, a logo doesn't do much for me anymore. I gotta see more. Like, look, I'm excited for, I guess, I'm not excited for God of War Ragnarok. Like, I'm excited by the idea, but I'm not like, when Ragnarok comes out, it's gonna be because it's like, I don't know what that game looks like, So I'm keeping the energy on both sides. Try my best.
Well, we definitely appreciate that. And VJ, closing out this topic, look, here's the thing. A lot of people have been, had a lot to say about this particular game. We talked about it on Tuesday's Xbox Factor podcast. We're talking it again today because we have some more information regarding it. Starfield has the potential to be an Xbox console seller. Now, whether that is, again, we know that Microsoft as a whole doesn't so much care, quote unquote, regarding console sales, because they give us so many different ways to play. Now you can play on iOS, you can play on your iPad, you can play on your computer, you can play on your tablet, you can on your Android phone, or on your Xbox. So they don't necessarily care if you buy an Xbox, but I think that when we see, and I've called this already, when the S drops down to 250, and it's going to drop to 250 this fall, there's going to be literally no reason why you don't buy an Xbox, especially if it's going to be your second console, and because of Game Pass, and of course Starfield will be in there. What are your thoughts on Starfield releasing this fall? And is it important to Microsoft's plans?
I mean, there was so many good points from the panel, Boom, and on top of your question, two double-barrel question, I should say. I jotted some note down, and I keep seeming to jot a lot more notes down when Mr. Badbit is speaking. So credit.
Joe's a good speaker. He's a good podcaster. That's why you got to listen. That's why you have to tune in and subscribe to the Trophy Room. Joe, shameless plug.
I'm still waiting to be invited onto it, Boom. So
me too. That makes two of us.
There's a wait list, y'all. There's a long.
It's like
wait
Xbox
list.
Game Pass. You got to be special to get in there. VJ, I don't think that we are. To be honest with you.
Honest to goodness, Soon. I just can't wait till next week's over and I can start talking again. Soon, guys. Soon, I promise.
I think in respect of everything that we've discussed historically, Boom. So I want to be consistent in that way, and obviously to answer your question in terms of today, because things have obviously drastically changed since last year. I think looking at Starfield, it's important, if not imperative, to Xbox's success, especially if Starfield delivers on its promise. It's only going to further support meaningful and measurable growth of Game Pass in terms of a sharp increase, or we'll see an upturn in subscriber volume and numbers. I think that's a given, right? But on the shallow face of it, sorry about the golf term, exclusivity in this situation does make sense for me, given the size of the bet that feels placed on there. And especially since it's a homegrown IP that hasn't graced any other hardware system to date. And I would also like to spare a meaningful one, if not not a fleeting thought, for the hundreds of publishing staff at Bethesda and what fate befalls them. I say this quite often because you know my background, Boom, and for me it's quite apparent that given the year that sort of just preceded us, unless you've been in hibernation of some sort, that at all times everybody needs to eat. So I just wanted to spare a thought for those guys. In regards to exclusivity, I will also say yet again, for consistency's sake, that whatever Phil decides in terms of how he uses established, new, and IPs in development that we probably don't even know about, that are being cooked up over at Bethesda, and how he uses that to illustrate that Xbox is a different gaming entity, a proposition and an experience this time around than what's previously gone before. And we can see, right, the ever-changing and evolution of the games industry, which is being led by Microsoft or Xbox, and really is Phil's brainchild, right? And there's no really disputing that. And fundamentally how he tackles the issue that he himself speaks of in regards to exclusivity and tribalism in the gaming industry, and to add to this, how he ultimately sees fit in going about generating a return on this substantial investment, right? At the end of the day, when all is said and done, you have to ultimately just respect him for his decisions, right? And delivering everything he possibly can for Game Pass. As you said, Boom, right? It's not all about the hardware in this generation. It's about all devices, all of the time, everywhere, for everyone, and is trying to make a very inclusive utopia for all gamers, and even for gamers that don't know that they're gamers, right? To be invited into an ecosystem where your imagination can be engaged probably to a degree that only films, comic books, and TV shows and music and even art, right, that captured you know, to that degree. And I'm saying this regardless of the noise, emotions, and the vocal drive and the drivel that we obviously see, and that's generated from personal desires, compulsions, sensibilities, and sort of demands from, you know, mediocre minds. It's not mine or anyone else's call to make. But that's putting that aside and just getting back to the second part of the question. On a personal note, look, I would like Starfield to be a wonderful and breathtaking experience. I'm a massive Mass Effect fan. I'm really looking forward to Legendary Edition. From a community's perspective, or should I say from the Waiting World's perspective, it's a brand new IP that we know very little about. Nobody in their right mind would want any game that we hear of that's in development to turn out poorly, especially for me, from a studio like Bethesda that has such a, I don't know the best way to put it, such a potent, commendable, and celebrated history. Would that be fair to say? Look, I'm not holding my breath for a 2021 release, given the delays we've seen of really prominent and prestigious games, pretty much being delayed left, right, and center, right? So I don't really want to put on any unnecessary pressure or demands on a studio, right? As we often say on this show, and you're the proponent leader of that, Boom, right? Get it out and take your time and deliver it when it's done and when it's good and proper and ready and properly baked and so on and so forth. But however, what we've seen and what captured me most about Starfield, and this is where I really disagree with Mr. Bagbit, was the project title and the emblem, logo, or badge, if you prefer.
I'm sorry, I had to get the booze out.
If Zemi was here today, he would say that from Bethesda's perspective, and you know he's well versed in marketing. It's when you see a logo or a brand, it's often the first and foremost important element that your customers encounter. The title, logo, and sequence, and I think was it 2018, I believe, when it was showcased.
Yes, I believe that's when they first showed it off. Yeah,
2018.
from my perspective, it was simple, poignant, and eloquent. The logo itself gently and for me evocatively sort of connects with gamers' minds, and I think beyond gamers' minds. That's just my opinion. And the upcoming reveal, Boom, whenever it's showered, cast, or ordained upon us, it's definitely going to try to build and maintain the anticipation, momentum, and trust that's already there with fans and consumers, not just towards Todd and so on and so forth. It's based on Bethesda's legacy and what's gone before. And again, you asked the question, and the really important question, I think, is it important for Xbox? Firstly, I would say it's important to Todd and the team that's been working on the game for several years, and for Phil, who's been afforded the funds and the privilege to take such a huge bet, which is, let's be honest, beyond the realms of what even I thought when I said to you last year when the Warner Brothers deal fell through, and I said, why don't they go for Bethesda? And it'll probably cost them $4.5 billion. Obviously, it was Microsoft, and someone somewhere added a premium to
They
it.
definitely overpaid, but that's because they really wanted in. There's no doubt about it.
But I think in hindsight, when the Minecraft deal happened, people were sort of aghast at the sort of sums that they paid. But I think that the kind of business model that they have, Boom, it allows them to take that kind of bet. And Microsoft have a considerable amount of cash sitting in the bank. And investors, I can tell you, when you've got that sort of large sums of money, they'll say, why are you not investing? Because it can't just sit there. So, and I think that the timing for Phil is really, really important. But anyway, I'm going to close off what I'm saying. Regardless of the reception or success that Starfield may or might not receive, you would not bet against it being a very good, if not a massively influential game for the industry in years to come. In the short to medium term, Xbox do have to rely somewhat on hardware sales, coupled or saddled with a bunch of good and great games. And in the long term, the big bet is on Game Pass. And I talk about this often on your show, Boom, that you kindly invite me onto. And again, any device anywhere. And I think Phil's has plans percolating to get that done, hooker by crook. I said it before, Game Pass is far greater than the sum of its individual parts for me as an individual consumer. Right now, looking at what's to come, it's a bag of copper and silver coins with a little gold dust sprinkled in. If Starfield was conceived well from the outset, regardless of engine rewrites and so on and so forth, and executed to a high technical and creative level, then it surely will be one of the first titles worth its weight in gold if it releases this year, and surprises everybody, especially me. But I think it's worth its weight in gold to the investment that Microsoft made. Bethesda as a major studio, right? Still to this present day, after 20 odd years being, or 30 years being in business, Xbox, Game Pass, and ultimately us, the players, and inevitably that plays forward in the case of Todd and Phil's realm in terms of what their plans are going forward. It's a really difficult topic to tackle, Boom, since there's really not a lot to go on. So these are just my initial thoughts based on what we know, or until we know more.
Well, I mean, again, what can we say? You killed it as usual, and you brought a lot of perspective to a topic that we don't have a lot of information on. Again, I don't want to say speculation. I think we have good information from people that I trust. Obviously, I hold Randall Thor and Jez Cord to a high candle because they do know people in Xbox, and if they're saying this, then I have to believe them. Before we get to topic number 3, and this one is something that's I've been banging for years. I got to catch up on some of the super chats. Smitty Smith, our brother, bringing us back to church once again. He says, I got to give shout out to Mrs. Boomstick. I know she's always working hard, so I just want to say salute. Well, that's awesome of you to say, brother. Yeah, she's grinding. She's not retired like me. Hopefully, she'll be retired in the next couple of years. But yeah, she's still working hard. But thanks for that, Smitty. Definitely appreciate that. Gerald Mack drops an additional $5 with chat and says, Mr. Boomstick, you make my $5 feel like $5 million. That face, we now know what fresh air looks like. Dude, that's awesome of you to say. Thank you for the extremely kind words. Viper the Red says, drops a $2 super chat, says, thank you, Boom, in chat for the incredible support. Of course, his dog had to be put down, and obviously our prayers and best wishes go out to him and his family. That's always tough. And Smitty Smith drops an additional $5 super chat and says, Second Extinction, The Ascent, Starfield, Halo Infinite, Crossfire X, and the Gunk, Sweet Jesus, the Book of X, indeed. And you've got Dafkin89 responds to that with a $2 super chat and says, Stalker 2. 2. I think that's coming out this year. I mean, it could get pushed, but I think that might come out. Logical Tech drops a $5 super chat and says Microsoft is reducing its cut in game sales in their store from 30% to 12% on 8/1, allowing developers/publishers to keep 88%. It's a big deal. Yes, and it's such a big deal. We're going to be talking about it on tomorrow's Breakfast with Boom, where we're getting a guest appearance from King David himself, who's going to come in. We have a lot of big numbers to get into. And of course, if you're going to talk numbers and you're going to talk about Microsoft, well, you got to have King David because he is...
I love that, man. Real talk. He's the best, man. He really is.
I mean, that guy. It's a shame that he doesn't do stand-up because he is really a funny dude.
So great, man.
108 Dragons TV, welcome to the show, brother. We got to get you on this show, dude. Hit me up in a DM and let's try and work something out. Been checking out your work. You do good work. We got to get you a guest appear. He drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, "What's good, Boom and gaming community? Great show." Well, thank you so much for that, brother. And we also have Raiden Blade, generous friend of the show. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Mr. B, you just came under the watchful eye of the FBI, NSA, FSB, MI6, and CZIME, the bodyguard." I love it, dude. Thanks so much for the super chat. But let's get into the topic that I'm really excited for this. You see that I spent some time with, of course, Ryse, Son of Rome. It's a game that I think everyone here has been asking for. There's just no doubt about it. And we got some new information that has me very excited, a little perplexed, but I think that money talks. And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about once I get to the end of my spiel, so to speak. There is a new rumor that Ryse, Son of Rome 2 is in fact in development after nearly a decade after its release on the Xbox One as a launch title. New information suggests that Crytek is hard at work on a sequel to one of the most underrated games. I get it. It's got quick time events. I get it that maybe there are a lot of the samey enemies. But look at the screen, folks. Like, look at the screen. We're an hour 7 minutes into the show, and I've been playing this. I think I got an hour and a half of footage in here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So this game that came out in 2013 still looks ridiculously good. I got
halfway through this game, and I was just like, "Oh God, the goddamn the Kinect! I hate it." Right? But you're making this game look good to me, and. You know me, I troll you guys and go, "It's overrated, it's stupid." Just a troll. I'm gonna be real, y'all. And this word is illegal in the trophy room land. This game looks like a banger right here. I might actually give this another go.
Here's the thing. Okay, look. One of the things I talk about on the show all the time, and it's an Xbox show, and I say this. Some people get mad, and they throw me write something nasty to me in the chat, and that's fine, or in the YouTube comments. You can't really talk about Microsoft without talking about Sony. It's kind of like peanut butter and chocolate. Are they good separate? Sure, but are they amazing together? The answer is yes. So this has a very reminiscent feel of one of the third-person, adult-driven, story-elevated titles that Sony is good at. And again, I understand that this is not God of War. I understand that it's not The Last of Us. But that does not make this game not good. Look at the gore. Again, sure, the quick-time events, I get it. But my God, this game is 8 years freaking old and still looks. If you put this out right now in 2021, I can guarantee you people will be like, "Yo, this is a banger. This is something I have to play." Look at the blood on the blade, folks.
Yeah.
It's listen, again, maybe not, it's not everyone's bag, and you're going to see some poor Mr. Boomstick tactics right now. I get killed like 3 or 4 times in a row. It's almost ridiculous. But you know what, Josh, let me continue before I get you in on over here, and let's talk about where the rumor originally came from. Now, obviously, the game is a third-person action game. No surprise there. And originally, it was the project name was Kingdom before moving to, of course, the Xbox One platform and eventually releasing on PC to a different in 2014. Now, the game was met with some mixed critical receptions at launch, but has become a cult classic among Xbox fans. Now, in the story that I pulled from the pages of Game Rant, one of my favorite places to get Xbox information, Xbox host or Xbox era host Special Ed stated in the newest episode of the podcast. So, and I'm quoting him in regards to the show. What he said, he says this. So, this person told me, "Yup, there's a new Ryse in development. I can't give you dates. I can't even give you quarters of when the thing is happening. Just that there is a Ryse 2 in development. And like I said, I've been given pictures of stuff that leads me to believe this person is legit." Ed goes on to mention that the sequel will be a multi-platform release, a break from tradition from the first game, which of course was exclusive to the Xbox One and PC. This likely means that Crytek could potentially have acquired the IP from Microsoft and could even be working on porting the original game to platforms such as the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and even the Nintendo Switch, as they did with the Crysis remaster. Now, this could pave the way for a Ryse 2 being a full Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5 exclusive title, taking advantage of the Cry engine on the newest generation hardware. You know, Josh, I got to bring you right into the conversation here. Look, I have this in my notes. You read it, so I'm going to say it live on the air. This is where I'm going to get a little petty. And normally I don't care, right? I just want to play good games. This one is a good game. But this is where I kind of Boomster gets a little petty here. I really think that this is a game that has cemented itself as an Xbox exclusive. And I don't know. I mean, listen, we do know Crytek's money situation is not good. That is not a boomstick opinion. That is a freaking reality, which is why I thought that they were almost one of the teams that were going to be purchased by Microsoft. Now, why that didn't happen, I don't know. I think it'd be a great buy for them because the Crytek engine, as you can see from 2013, still looks incredible. My question to you, Josh, isn't about Ryse 2, but its exclusivity. Do you think that because this game originally started on Xbox, that it possibly should remain there, and should Phil and company drop that bag of money to make sure that it does stay Xbox exclusive?
I mean, based on the amount of QuickTime events, it really belongs on the PlayStation.
Well, I mean,
Get out, Josh.
that is funny, Josh.
That's dang hilarious. You're taking my spot.
I love it.
No, I mean, I remember when this game, you know, it was one of the first games that was available on the Xbox One, right? Like it wasn't it a release? Was it a release title for the
Correct.
the Xbox
Yeah.
One? Yeah. And
Mhm.
so it's a game for me. I'd have to go back. Like I said, the Xbox One was a destiny machine for me. I went from playing everything on the 360 to hunt achievements to only playing Destiny. And I remember playing the demo of this, and when I played it, I was like, that's enough, right? That's enough. Now, for fans of this series, like you said, if it has kind of a cult following now, I understand the frustration of watching a whether it be a game or a developer go from one company to another. When I watched Rare leave Nintendo in the the GameCube era, it was a blow for me, right? Like I was like I refused initially to play Halo because I'm like, no, Perfect Dark's coming and Halo's not going to even compare to it. That wasn't the case, right? And
hopefully the new one will be great.
I'm very, very, very hopeful for the new Perfect Dark. But so I mean, I understand that if you were excited about this game and you wanted it to be an exclusive for the, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm at the point with gaming that I'm like, the more I don't necessarily love exclusives, right? Because there's PlayStation games. I haven't bought a PlayStation since I own a PlayStation 4, but my buddy has it, and so I haven't played any of the games that were out on PlayStation 4. And so if a game like this, it ends up being received well and a lot of people can play it, it doesn't really bother me, right? Like I'm not all that bent out of shape, but I understand if you're in the camp that was like, yo, this was our, I mean, I don't know if you could say it was your God of War, but you know what I'm saying. I get it.
No, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I absolutely understand what you're saying, and it does make a lot of sense. But again, I just think it's one of those games, Josh, that again, with the cult following, again, certain titles, when you see a game, you think, console manufacturer, right? When I see Banjo-Kazooie, I still think of Nintendo, right? Because, well, that's where it started. I'm not sad that I'm sad that we haven't gotten a new one, and I think that we're going to get an announcement this E3. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to be a dual announcement. I think it's coming out for the Nintendo Switch and for Xbox, and I really think that it's going to be published by Microsoft, but be made by Nintendo. Again, just my theory, no proof or anything. But this is a game that had, if you enjoyed this and you enjoy lore, it had so much to offer in regards to graphics and gameplay, but the storytelling that went on. Obviously, I don't want to give any spoilers away. The game's only 8 years old, but if you didn't beat the game, or you did play the game, you understand that there is a mythical aspect to this game that was not really ventured upon only but by cutscenes. And I think that there's so much to offer. I'm not saying it is going to be the God of War. No, it's not. It's going to be its own thing. But I think that this game still has a tremendous amount of legs and value as an exclusive. Mav, let's get your opinion on this, brother. What are your thoughts on what you're seeing on the screen? And more importantly, what Special Ed had to say about pretty much confirmation that Ryse Son of Rome 2 is in development. Do you want to see Microsoft lock this down?
So for me personally, I'm kind of like a little bit like Josh with this, where I don't necessarily have to have the games be exclusive, because for me, if I get to play it, that's all that matters. But I think regardless, like, what would be a win for Xbox would be to get this game in Game Pass, because then it would still feel associated with Xbox, if you know what I mean. Like,
right.
if there's no other like alternative, okay, Crytek, Xbox isn't really known for doing, and Phil especially isn't known for doing like exclusivity deals with third party, but that may be changing.
Right.
With the rumors of those other two games, the ones that we were just talking about before. So if that stuff is on the cards, and with what Sony's going to be doing with this generation is getting a lot of timed exclusives, a lot of third-party exclusives, because they can't really bolster with the acquisitions that Xbox can. That's what they're going to. So maybe Xbox is going to start battling back with some of that, right? So maybe make it a timed exclusive for Xbox and throw some money that way. Bring it to Game Pass, get the marketing rights. You know what I mean? And then you'll still have that feeling of it being associated with Xbox. I know the feeling you're talking about, because it's how I felt when Splinter Cell became multi-platform. Right?
Yeah. Well, that launched on the OG Xbox as an exclusive.
Right. And Splinter Cell for me was one of my favorite Xbox franchises. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, now everybody gets to play it. It's like it made it feel like a little less like special, as like it's not for just Xbox players anyway. But as I don't know, maybe as I've gotten a little bit older, I don't care as much about that stuff anymore. But I completely get why people do feel that way, because I have felt that way, right? So, as far as Xbox, I think with the rumors of those games that Miles and Jez and all those guys were talking about, it sends a signal.
Yeah,
that
it does.
Things are changing. The difference here is those are Microsoft published games, so with this probably not being, this would not be a Microsoft published game. They would have to just throw money out there, right? And do like what PlayStation did with Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, right? And get like some kind of exclusive deal for a year and something like that. That's all I can really think. I don't know unless they just went and bought Crytek.
Listen,
That's a possibility.
You know what? The thing with that is, when you look at Crytek as a company, sure, they own. From what I understand, I looked it up. They actually own the IP for Ryse. That Microsoft
Right.
does not own that. That is owned by Crytek. They also have the Crysis IP. But I think
Right.
one of the most valuable things
CryEngine.
yeah, dude, that's really what it comes down to, is the CryEngine is still so, and again, what we know from the Special Ed podcast, the Xbox Era podcast with Special Ed, I should say, is that they're using the newest Crytek engine, and my God, I can only imagine what that looks like, because again, I have to keep saying this game on the screen, I'm watching it, right? I played this, I recorded this, and I'm actually watching
incredible.
it like I'm excited.
Boom. When I saw you get impaled in the body,
Yeah, dude.
thank God my mic was cursed. Was muted, because I was cursing a storm.
Did you see the blade go through the neck?
Yeah,
through the
dude.
neck, man. That's what gets me. Did you see it actually protrude through the front of the neck?
He got LASIK, It was nuts.
Yeah.
It's great. You know what, Joe?
LASIK.
Let's bring you in on the conversation. This is,
Sure.
you're someone that represents PlayStation, but
Yep.
you're a gamer at the end of the
Absolutely.
day. So you understand what a third-person, story-driven, adult-themed game like a Rise 2 would mean for Xbox. It's one of the genres that Microsoft does not have.
Sure.
That's a fact. That's not even a suggestion or an opinion. That's a straight up fact. Now, is that going to change? Sure. Could it change faster with the Rise 2? Yes, I think it could.
So here's the deal. I wasn't a big fan of Ryse as well, but I had an epiphany. As you know, I said, be right back. I had to go to the little bad bits room, and I have these epiphanies while in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's a good place to have them.
It's great. And so while praying to the porcelain god, I realized, what was the game of the year in 2021? Or sorry, 2020?
What's that?
That's Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
What if we were just like, Ryse and Rome, fantastic, right? It had good combat to it. Let's do something with the Roman Centurion that we haven't seen.
Oh my
And
God.
that is just, talk about what it means to be on the front lines as a Roman soldier, what their values hold, what their culture holds, and what if we're having something where it's similar to Ghosts, we're following a Roman
I like it,
Centurion.
dude.
He
Yeah.
has to decide to forsake some of his ideals to fight back the barbarians and the
Yes.
Mongols or whatnot. Like, that would be a really, really dope game, something that I would love to see. And I think the combat kind of speaks to that as well, of like how are you going to fight and how are you going to maneuver, or even just like customize the look of your dude. I think that would be really cool. So, I am a person of this, similar to that of like where we talk about, God, I can't even think of it. Why is it Days Gone? It's like, listen, it didn't do well. It didn't do what it needed to do. It didn't really move the needle. I think there's something here with Rise Son of Rome that I think you could really work with in a sequel. And for me, listen, if it's not an exclusive, it's not going to, it's not going to kill me. I get to play it on my PlayStation
Right.
at the same exact time. I would bet that there would be some type of marketing arrangement. Also, I don't know if Microsoft wants to. We talk about why not acquiring Crytek. From what I understand, there was a lot of issues.
Yes,
In
there were.
development and management wise. So I don't know if Microsoft really wants to take that on and actually have to probably change the culture of a business. I don't know how impactful either is the Crytek engine anymore when you have something like Epic or Unity being such in demand. So
Yeah,
I could understand why Microsoft kind of looked away at it, especially when you're partnering so closely with Epic in terms of like the Unreal Engine 5 with Ninja Theory. So honestly, though, it may be a bit of a bummer to the fans out there, it's cool to say that they did recognize you, Boom, and go, you know what, y'all really like this game. We're gonna take another stab at it, and I think that's pretty dope.
Yeah, I agree, and I again, listen, I all joking aside, not really using that because I'm not petty. I'm not a petty person. I would be happy just to see this get a sequel. Now, if it releases on multiple platforms, well, I'm going to play it on Xbox because that's where I played it originally, and that's where I want to continue my story. But I think that there is so much here that, again, it's just one of those genres that Microsoft doesn't really do a lot of. And again, we're going to see that differently with Fable. I understand there's some things coming, but man, to get a Ryse 2 that looks this good on new hardware, I'm definitely all in. VJ, let's get your final opinion on this. We'll get to the last topic of the show. What are your thoughts on the basic confirmation that Ryse 2 is in active development? Do you think that Microsoft, or more specifically Phil Spencer, may recognize that this is a game that we have been asking for and may in fact make it, give them the money to make this an exclusive?
I was going to say, thanks for the footage, Boom. It looks outstanding, doesn't it, for a game that's what was out 8 years ago?
A launch title for the OG Xbox. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Look, you know me, Boom, pretty well now, so I'm not really vexed or exasperated if Ryse 2 is indeed exclusive, or if the case may be, or it is or isn't, it doesn't really matter to me. Moreover, I guess no one should care or should care to a fault if it is or isn't. I think I'm with you that the fact that if the game is in development, then I think there's a lot of fans, because this game is mentioned quite often on this show. It's one of the titles actually that's mentioned quite often on the show. I think my focus would be that the game turns out to be superb, whatever it is, and wherever you decide to apply and trade your gaming time. And I think that's been the sentiment of the panel to a degree, and in the chat. Look, there is a time and place for exclusivity. I don't deny that. Especially if it makes commercial sense, or if it's intrinsically and positively affects the future of the platform holder and also the developer that's ultimately behind it. I'm not exactly sure how strong or meaningful the bond or relationship is between Xbox, Phil, and Crytek at this present moment in time. I guess the only question I have for the panel and the chat is that if indeed Crytek bought back the IP, or whether they owned it in the first place, I'm not entirely sure, back from Xbox or Microsoft, and then why not at that point in time did Phil and Xbox not open discussions for any sequel to potentially be funded, or find ways or means to make it have preferential treatment, whether it's Game Pass or marketing, etc., in relation to the Xbox hardware, and obviously Game Pass, right? We can't mention one or the other, right, without including. So the other side of the coin, Boom, is that whenever this sort of thing comes up, my mind often drifts to the 23 or whatever studios that are developing games, anything between 25 to 35 new shiny new Buzz Lightyears for Game Pass and Xbox.
Yeah.
If anything, it's a huge Ryse aside, it's already a huge bouquet or treasure trove or potential embarrassment of riches, as sometimes say on the show, in terms of games that are on their way to Game Pass already. So then I'm kind of like haggling with myself and negotiating with myself. Does it really truly deeply matter if Ryse, Son of Rome 2, or whatever the title is, or whatever the setting ends up being? And I think Mr. Badbit, again, to his credit, came up with a fantastic comparison to what it could potentially end up being, right? Whether it's multi-format or not, in terms of its relation to Ghost of Tsushima, which I loved, which was a fantastic game, probably the last game I actually played on the PlayStation system. At the same time, perhaps Microsoft, Phil, and Xbox, because again, we're not privy to this, were prudent and have some sort of marketing or first right of refusal clause in the original deal or the concurrent deal when the IP changed hands. If it did indeed change hands, unless it was owned by
I think Crytek ultimately owned it. I know I read somewhere where people were looking into whether Microsoft owned it. I don't think they ever did, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive this what from inception
Yeah.
was a Crytek owned IP.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just in terms of when you get to the nitty gritty of these contracts and publishing rights, first right of refusal, and all that, and perhaps that clause is still remains intact. Maybe it was a 10-year clause, or maybe it was a 5-year clause, and 5 years was typically the norm back in 2010, 2013. I know a little bit because I've fortunately been privy to these sort of contracts in the past. I don't know how many. But I have to also look at Crytek as a company as well from their perspective. I don't know how many people or staff the studio employs, and what Crytek and have in place, or the plans that they have for the Crytek engine, or what the licensing criteria is, or even if they still do that kind of stuff, right, and what they have in the works. But one thing is for sure, when that game came out, it really showcased the Crytek engine.
Yep.
And if they are looking commercially at, look, we want to push the Crytek engine again, we need that licensing revenue, we want to build the company back up again. We know that they've been through their trials and tribulations, but their talent has never been in question. And as I say, one thing is for sure, Crytek love to showcase their latest and greatest.
They sure do.
With content created with their tool set. But also we do know that when you focus on a single format, it is a lot easier for the studio, right, to focus in on a single game rather than a multi-format game. It's not impossible, because obviously the resources that some of these studios have are now incredible. But again, I say again, but what better way to showcase your engine, right, than with a known IP and a game designed around a concept that really showcases and represents the features of a new engine in the best possible light. Look, at the end of the day, look, I'm just imagining, presupposing and hypothesizing here at best. So feel free to take it from here any which way you want.
No, I mean, listen, it's a great point. Everyone had great points about this, and again, I'm happy to know. I'll put it this way: I actually don't care where this goes. I would love to see it go to Xbox, for the fact that it wasn't. And here's the thing: there were a lot of people in the community that shunned this game because it was on a lesser power Xbox One. And I would love to see this simply make a return, a grandest return, potentially getting a remaster of the original to go along with a release that would be an Xbox exclusive, because it, breathed life first on the Xbox platform. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I'm just happy to know that we could potentially get a second one that's as gory and brutal as what we're seeing on new hardware. I mean, it's that in itself is crazy, but I want to catch up on some of the super chats, and we'll get to the last topic of the day. There's been quite a few of them that popped in. Let's see. Okay, Raiden Blade drops a very generous. He drops 2 super chats for $5. The first one is Mr. B. Oh no, I read that one. Okay, so the second one is to all PlayStation fans in the chat, and there's quite a few of them. And you're watching, go buy a Series S. It's cheap, and you get the best of both platforms. Enjoy gaming. I've said this. I've been banging. Yeah, Joe.
I bought an S instead of an X. I've been thinking about that as well.
There you go. I mean, listen, folks,
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with supporting multiple consoles. For instance, our good friends over at Gaz's website, obviously Gaz from Game On Daily, they had one of the directors for Dirt 5 on there, the director, and he said it. I absolutely love my Xbox Series S, not his X, which I'm sure that Microsoft probably sent him. His S. He loves it. And that's coming from a developer who makes games for multiple platforms. And I think that this generation is going to really see the return of multiple consoles in people's homes. Powerman 4K drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Sup, Boom and panel, love the podcast." Well, Powerman 4K, thank you for the generosity, but more importantly, thank you for the awesome compliment. Dan Lazaro drops a very generous $5 super chat and says this: "As an Xbox player, I don't care if a game is exclusive, but the PlayStation cult are jerks, so give it to Nintendo and not PlayStation." Yeah, I mean, listen, every community has just terrible zealots that just or just make trouble, just stay away from them. And if you don't like, if you don't like it, just block them and move on. That's what I do. I'll mute people. But Bay Area drops a very generous $5 super chat and says Xbox has enough in-house engines to make a beautiful sequel to Ryse. Phil should drop the bag for the IP like they did when they bought Gears of War. I agree right there. As a matter of fact, I would even dare say if they weren't doing anything with it, yes, buy that license and give the IP to, of course, the Coalition. The Coalition would make a dope Ryse 2. But again, speculation town. DeAndre Banks drops a very generous $2 super chat. Says, great show, Boom. Ryse is still awesome graphically. Indeed it is. And Raiden Blade drops an additional $5 super chat and says, Mr. B, remember when Jason Ronald was on ILP? I certainly do. And he said he was excited for a certain game. Could it be Ryse? I mean, hey man, you just don't know. But this is getting to the end of this. I want to add this to the stream over here. You're gonna see some of some absolute incredible gameplay. I don't have multiplayer going. Second Extinction, I just want, what it does is it gives you the option to just drop down to the planet and do some solo missions. So that's what you're going to see in front of you. If you have not played this game, my God, you have to play it. Systemic Reaction outdid themselves. And I'm not saying that because they had the interview that has nothing to do with it. I was looking forward to this game. It's Turok Dinosaur Hunter meets Left 4 Dead, and my God, Mav, you know exactly how good this is. You've been playing it like a lunatic. But let's get to the last topic of the day, and then we're gonna get out of here, do the outros after we're done with this, and I'm gonna shoot over to Mad's Gaming. I'm doing his show right along with, of course, Mav here. But we have to talk about E3 2021 from Microsoft because there are some well-known people talking about it. Now, look, as of today's show, E3 2021 is 44 days away, and a new leak suggests that Xbox will be bringing their biggest lineup of first-party titles ever to an E3. Thanks to friend of the community and Xbox insider Clobriel, we have some exciting information on what to expect at the big show. Now, the well-known leaker took the reset era to drop a few tidbits claiming that we should expect to see Halo Infinite, no surprise, Forza Horizon 5, which is rumored to be in Mexico City, which is kind of dope, Age of Empires 4, revealed at Microsoft's show this summer, and Clobriel also adds the caveat that while these 4 games, of course, the one game I forgot, it was Starfield, but we talked about that already. That's not all that could potentially launch this year and of course be shown. According to these are coming directly from Clobriel, Halo, Starfield, Forza Horizon 5 trifecta incoming, add Age of Empires 4, and I'm confident that there are triple A quadruple punch this summer, independent whether all of these 4 games make it to release or not, but it's still something to behold. In another Reset Era post from Clobriel, he said this: I'm with Jeff Grubb on this one and do expect Forza Horizon to show up this summer. I also might have an idea about the location, which unfortunately is not Japan, and this is where Boomstick gives a sad face. But that info didn't go too well with the Forza Horizon 4 the last time, so let's leave that to the team. Now, coming from Jeff Grubb, friend of the show, who was on Primetime Gaming a couple of weeks ago, he says Jeff Grubb has stated unequivocally that Forza Horizon 5 won't take place in Japan, and with so many industry insiders echoing the same information, we'd say that there's more truth here to be found in the leak, but as always, until we get official confirmation, take everything with a grain of salt. Josh, I got to go to you. This E3 is going to be, first of all, we got information that Greg Miller is one of the hosts, which is kind of dope for Kind of Funny. That's a big deal for Greg Miller. Obviously, congratulations to him and that entire team over there because they work real hard at Kind of Funny, and I'm a big fan of the work. Whether I get to be on there as a guest one day, well, you throw stuff out to the universe. Sometimes the universe answers. But Josh, besides the big 4, besides what we talked about, how much more do you think Microsoft is bringing to the table in only 44 days?
I think there's going to be a lot, right? I mean, we've seen how many studios have been acquired,
Yeah.
and we kind of are just still waiting to see what are they going to bring? What are they going to bring? And I don't know that it's going to be. I think some of the excitement for E3 is not going to be just the games that are announced, but I think there's going to be some bombs dropped when it comes to Game Pass.
Yeah,
with
me
games
too.
that we weren't expecting that all of a sudden are going to be available. And I also think there's going to be big surprises with Xbox and Nintendo, like with the Switch that's been in the background so many times now. I don't know what's going to be. I have no idea, but I'm very excited and very hopeful for this E3 for all three of the big companies. Honestly, like I feel like we've all kind of been on a little bit of because of the last year's circumstances and everything. It was just kind of like I think we're ready. I think the industry is ready for just like a big exciting E3 with lots of news, lots of new games, and and really I hope I hope we see a great like variety of games from that are going to appeal to a very broad audience.
Yeah,
And,
that's a great point. Yeah. It's something that Microsoft is doing well. So Game Pass, as much as it's gonna hold, all of their first party, quote unquote bangers, right? What they're doing by offering everything from quadruple A developed games to the indie games is super important. And I think that because of the success of games like Octopath Traveler and Outriders, and I think that of course Second Extinction you're going to see is going to be very, very popular and is going to do very well on Xbox Game Pass because a lot of people have it, and a lot of people. I mean, listen, it's the multiplayer box. Everyone knows that, and this is a multiplayer game. Now, I've seen people on Twitter say that this game looks like an Xbox Game Pass game. Well, what the frick does that mean? I think this game is. I mean, you see, it's running. I mean, for crying out loud, I don't think anything wrong with this game whatsoever. If you like Left 4 Dead, if you like Turok, and you wanted those two somehow put together, you got it. And again, maybe I've read some things. Oh, they don't like the characters. Okay, you don't like the characters. What can I tell you? If it plays like Fortnite, you're going to get a whole bunch of downloadable characters, and you're probably going to be able to download them for free. Who knows what they're going to do? I'm very excited. I've been put just about 5 hours into this game. I can't get enough. But good stuff, Josh, as always. Mav, let's get your opinion on this. For E3 2021, we know 4 big games that are basically almost confirmed to be there. What else are you expecting Microsoft to bring to the table?
Well, first off, Second Extinction, yeah, amazing. Holy crap, I was not actually expecting to be as blown away by that as I was. Explosions galore. Dinosaurs flying into the air. The physics are fun. The guns are fun. I'm blown away by it right now. But as far as Xbox at E3, I think we're going to get what Clobril said. I think we're going to get the big 4 there. I wish Age of Empires was also coming to console. There's been no mention of it.
No, they haven't.
But that's just a dream of mine because I just
well, Gears Tactics took a while to get to console, so maybe they'll make that happen.
Maybe eventually. I would like to see them all come, to actually.
Because you could definitely do it. Like Halo Wars shows that you can.
Yeah. Yes,
you can do it. I think though. Halo Wars is a much more compact game than Age of Empires, but like you could still use the cursor elements that they use. Like
Command and Conquer, Supreme Commander. There was a lot of really
those
good.
Those are Xbox 360, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of great RTS games on the 360. Lord of the Rings, Battle for Middle Earth 2, amazing game on the 360 as well. Just I like RTS controls on console. I may be weird, so I wish that was coming to Xbox. I think there's going to be. Remember all those other rumors when they said, okay, there was like Xbox said, hey, we have a couple of things that are unannounced that are coming this year. So we already knew about Age of Empires. We already know about Starfield. We already know about Halo. Forza Horizon 5 would be one of the surprises. What would be the other one? There could be potentially one more game that we don't know about that could be potentially mentioned. Maybe one of these Microsoft published games, Microsoft publishers. We're also going to see Flight Simulator come. I think we're going to see maybe something from Crossfire X is going to be there as well, and Remedy may make an appearance with that. My mind is just stirring. Hellblade 2 gameplay.
Yes.
What else could we potentially see at this E3? And not just for Xbox, but I think as far as like industry wide, this is going to be a mega celebration of like entering into the golden age, as we've all been saying for a while now, saying like, let's go, let's freaking just let loose. There's so much investment into gaming right now, and you're going to see just new things that nobody could have expected. And I think it's just going to be incredible. I'm super excited for it.
One game I think we're going to see from a developer we have not heard from is that the fine folks at We Happy Few. They're supposedly working on Compulsion Games. They're supposedly working on a game that crosses between BioShock and Uncharted. Sign me up, please. Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe we see something from them, because I know that Phil as a matter of fact, a couple of months ago, Phil went by the studio and he was interviewed, and they asked him specifically, what 2 games that we have not seen publicly yet are you most excited for? Before he even talked about the quadruple A monster that they have in their stable, he mentioned Compulsion. And that's when the head of Xbox, out of the 23 studios and 35 teams, says your game first, I think you got something there, folks. I'm very interested to see what they did. I know We Happy Food wasn't everyone's bag. It wasn't mine either. I bought it to support the company, but just wasn't my bag. I expected more of it to be like BioShock, and it kind of was, but kind of wasn't. You know what I'm saying? But Joe, let's get your opinion on this. What do you, besides these 4 games, and these are no slouches, these are all big games in one way or another, what else are you expecting at E3 2021 from Microsoft?
Oh man, I want to say this because Mav said it, and I just, sometimes we get too chummy, me in the chat, and I just gotta remind them who I am, and that is, I can't wait till we see Crossfire X. And we just get that delusion that it's going to be decent out of it. I get it. Oh, it's Remedy. Remedy's great. They're making the story. Dude, I played that multiplayer.
The multiplayer was garbage, bro.
It wasn't good, but thankfully that's not being developed by Remedy.
Yeah, that was Smilegate. Is that
Smilegate.
It's still Smilegate's engine. It's still Smilesgate. Like how can you deviate that far from the multiplayer in terms of how the weapons react? That's all I'm saying, Xbox gang. That's all I'm saying. Crossfire X, not impressed. All that for a drop of blood, as a insane sociopath once said. So I will say this: I'm excited to just see. This is Microsoft's kind of like, this is their
coming out party.
Yeah, yeah. Of like, this is who we are. This is what the brand's going to be for the future. That's what I'm way more interested of. I'm always cautiously optimistic for Xbox because I try to have my expectations pretty low. There is always the running theme that I don't necessarily agree with, but I understand. Is like, Xbox people are always like, wait till E3.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. So, or wait till next E3. It has to be this E3.
I agree.
Right? The one that we're waiting for has to be this one. I think Xbox has always had solid performances, even really great ones. And I don't even think, E3 matters in that sense of like who wins, who loses, but I think they have to say something here that is going to define them for the next 5 to 7 years of what the vision of this brand is. I would love that most of those games are on Game Pass, when they launch. Like, that would be something really awesome to see. I want to see what these studios that are making those games, I want to see what they're working on with the little like asterisks that these games are a year or two out, not like 3 or 4. We're not getting, we're not doing a Sony from 2017 and have the same press conference for 3 years in a row. That's what I don't want from Xbox. I want Xbox to show us something that's things that are coming out in the near future. I want them to show us what's coming out in the mid future. I want all those games to come out at the end of 2022. Like that's the cutoff. So yeah, that's what I want to see. And I think honestly, there's no excuse why we won't see it. But again, my hype is leveled because at the same exact time when I say all that, we also have to understand what the world we're living in right now and the limitations of such.
Yeah, that's a great point. We got expectations definitely need to be
I feel
brought
like
to the forefront.
That's the constant thing that I think Xbox doesn't deliver on is they always set themselves up to hit a grand slam, and for some reason they hit a foul ball. Right? Like every time they build up to a press conference or a big press thing, like I think the one that enters my mind is like the indie event. And I know it was hosted by Twitch, but the brand let that brand host that event. So they have to carry that responsibility. They set themselves up for a grand slam. And look, even you midway through that, I can't do this.
Yeah, no,
right?
it's the truth.
It's they have to set those expectations accordingly, and I'm believing that they will. I want them to. So yeah.
Well, I mean, great points as always. VJ, you want to add?
1 sec. I've been saying this since I got on this podcast. The Nintendo Switch by the end of this year, you will see Game Pass on it.
I agree. Yeah, no, and I think that's good. I think that it gets announced at E3 on the Nintendo. Because they do their little event. I think you get Phil Spencer to walk out there with Bowser together.
Has been courting Nintendo for years now.
Yeah, they have.
I was listening to Secret Symbols, and I did not know this until I found out or reminded of it. There was going to be a DS Halo game, right? Yes. But someone got cold feet. So, listen, Xbox has been courting Nintendo for a very long time. They have a very friendly relationship. Now it's time that Xbox asks Nintendo to prom. Yeah. Let's see.
Well, hopefully they will respond.
Exactly. Give a Viva Pinata.
It's on DS. It's
right. It is. Yes,
that's another Microsoft game, and Diddy Kong Racing ended up, and I don't know how all that worked out between Rare, but that's also on the DS. So,
you also got Ori as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ori and Cuphead. Yeah.
Battletoads needs to be on the Switch. Come on.
I agree. I think you get. I love. Listen, I'm not going to get into Battletoads. A lot of people clowned on that game. I freaking absolutely loved it because I'm an old school cat. I remember, going to the arcades to play these coin stealers because that's really what they were. I would love to see Battletoads because I would support them and buy that there. But VJ, let's get everyone out of here with your final report. What are you expecting from Microsoft? What do they need to bring to the big show?
I think I'm with Mav a little bit because when those games were announced, I was a little surprised that Hellblade 2 wasn't mentioned on the list. But let's be honest, the usual suspects have been named. And if we don't see anything related to these aforementioned titles at E3, I guess we'll be on show potentially asking the question why and when.
Yes.
And as I said last week, I think all three companies will turn up in force this summer. Will it just be, tantalizing trailers and developer interview driven, or actual hands-on preview or gameplay footage? I think I can guess what everybody's preference would be, but whatever the case may be, we know that this sort of grand pageant of a circus is being put on, and as to why, firstly because the strain on current hardware shortages should hopefully be alleviated going into the second half of this year. And secondly, in and around June, midway through the year, it's prime time, right? Before the busy and rewarding fall season ensues for most businesses. And if anyone benefits from it, it's the video gaming industry. And every gaming company, I should say, wants your attention and focus, since if anything, it's almost an occasion to sell you on future promise. I'm already, I don't want to deviate too much, but I'm looking forward to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I just don't have a PS5, but putting any subjectivity and, dare I say, bias aside, and purely from a respectful, creative, technical, and artistic perspective, Ratchet and Clank really does showcase what can be achieved by talented developers, of which Xbox has plenty of. Right, I'm not a technical person, far from it, but my hope is that this sort of game being available so early on in the generation bodes well for what the PS5 and Xbox Series X and all the talented respective talented teams associated with one or the other can offer us going forward. And I mean, and at the same time, I don't mean any discredit or disrespect to Nintendo. For all intent and purposes, I mean, they've got, they're in a wonderfully, curated realm of their own, if I can put it like that, and we all like to visit it on occasion. And having said that, what I've said, what I would really like to see at E3 is every developer and platform holder pushing the creative boundaries of what's possible. This sort of pseudo E3 that we're all looking forward to isn't just about platform holders, publishers, and developers. Yes, they need to show their wares and commercial intent and all that good stuff. Yeah, we know all of that. But for me, it's also, for the many, many times that I attended it, since the 1990, I think was my first one, for me, it's also a celebration. And I hope to see, from a personal and probably from a selfish perspective, an endless stream of brilliance. If 2021's pseudo E3 event can deliver on the same high note as some of the great E3s that have gone before us, then I think everyone involved, whether you're a developer getting the opportunity to present your efforts or a consumer waiting to be engaged, it will all go down as a momentous and sort of glorious occasion for everybody. And one thing is for sure, Boom, 3-Bit better own up to all his hard work that's going to be on display in and amongst everything.
Yeah.
And I want to so dedicated to that, Boom. Yes, yeah. I'm just putting it out there, but obviously it's totally up to you. Don't sack me.
I love 3-Bit.
He actually, 3-Bit couldn't be with us because of work. Obviously, work is more important than this little podcast.
Busy focused on E3.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. But listen, folks, this has been one hell of a show. I mean, I got a chance to work with Mav. I got a chance to work with Josh today. And, of course, I always enjoy working with Mr. Badbit, which would reprise his role as panel member tomorrow on Breakfast with Boom. And VJ, what could you say? Your literary skills are just nothing to be trifled with. And, of course, we thank you for the elaborate points, because that's what we love having you on this show, and that's what we definitely appreciate. JC Claramore drops a $2 super chat and says, bought Oculus Quest 2 yesterday. I support multiple platforms. Indeed, I have an Oculus.
How are you liking it? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's good. I have the first one, and I love it. I definitely should just splurge and get that and sell the other one privately. We have a $10 super chat from a good friend and generous friend of the show. He drops an outstanding $10 super chat and says, MS should go for dominance. Buy Sega, then pay Square, Capcom, and KO Temco, Namco, etc., $50 to $150 million a year to gain content parity with all the other platforms, and 3 exclusives from each over 7 years. Man, if you were running Microsoft, we would know what to do with ourselves right now. There's another one comes in from JD Gamer. The last thought. Give From Software 3 game exclusive deal worth $400 million, where 2 of the 3 IPs are developed by From Software but owned by Microsoft. That's interesting. We also had Tim swoop in here and drop a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Hey Boom, new Mechasol." I say yes, freaking please. Thank you, for bringing that up. Yeah, please bring up
Crimson Skies.
Dude, Crimson Sky, still one of my favorite OG Xbox games. My God, that was so good.
Wait. Crimson Skies, the best thing to do in the lobby. Everybody be like, how'd you get 1 star? And you're like, oh, you got to hit BFA as fast as you can. And half the lobby would leave because it would just exit them right out of the game.
Dude,
come back, and they'd be like, you didn't do it fast enough. And then they would all leave again.
Dude, that's hilarious. Inside baseball. We love that. Well, listen, let's get everyone out of here because I literally got to leave this show to go to another one, and so does Mav. First of all, I got to shout out, man. We had almost 600 people here today. My God, I wasn't watching the chat numbers, and yes, they came in an abundance. 600 people, and anything is huge. And you see, I'm getting wrecked now by a Triceratops, and I don't even know what that thing is that's on its back right now. But you're going to see I get clobbered by its tail. I'm just getting assaulted here. It's not even funny. I'm running for my life. But anyway, Josh, thanks so much for being here, brother. We definitely got to get you back on the show, and obviously, maybe I can guest on your show one day. Tell everyone where they could reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, support you on YouTube and subscribe to your channel.
I'm N64 Josh everywhere, and I've just started Xbox now as well. It's like a secondary outlet for me just to cover Xbox games exclusively. Nice. I am looking to build a team of writers and creators. So if it's something if you're passionate about Xbox and you want to start, maybe trying your hand at writing or whatever it is, hit me up. I'd love to chat.
Well, thanks so much for being here, brother. And we're definitely going to get you back on this show for sure. Really enjoyed the professionalism that you brought to the table today, and look forward to hearing more of what you're doing in the community. Definitely thank you for that. Mav, obviously I'm going to be working with you again on, of course, the next show that we're going to be racing to. Tell everyone about the Xbox Ultimate Podcast, and of course, your other show that people need to talk more about regarding pop culture.
Absolutely. So tonight is Fun Pop, which is our movies, TV show, DC, Marvel, all HBO stuff, Disney stuff, and just whatever. We talk about it all. We're gonna have a blast, and that's tonight at 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. We're having Pong, Soul, and Steel Rain is coming on as guests tonight. We're going to talk some Mortal Kombat and some other stuff. It's going to be a blast, so check that out. The YouTube channel is Fun Speculation, where we also have Xbox Ultimate Podcast, which is on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I just got confirmation we're going to have an interesting guest there tomorrow. Mr. Bad Bit Joe, PlayStation man himself, is going to be on an Xbox podcast again tomorrow, 2 days in a row on Xbox podcast. What's going on? This is going to be a blast. Dude, thanks for coming on that show. So we're going to have a fun time tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern on Xbox Ultimate. Again, that's on Fun Speculation on YouTube. Find me on Twitter, Fun Speculation. Just reach out, guys. We like to have fun. Catch me streaming games, too, as well. Like Second Extinction. We had a blast playing that yesterday.
Well, I got news for you. Xbox Nation is proud, but the PlayStation delegation, really not so much. I can see the lawsuits already being drawn up against your podcast as well. I've been sued multiple times by them, and they're still waiting for their money. I don't know where it's going to come from.
You don't understand the angry whispers Mark Cerny gives me.
Yeah, well, just keep that man away from my ears. Joe, speaking of PlayStation, tell everyone about your outstanding trophy room with your best friend Kyle, which you guys have been killing it as of late. Thanks so much for being here, brother.
Thank you, man. Listen, it's been a crazy, insane week for the trophy room. This week, we have a review conversation about Returnal. And nice. It's a really awesome in-depth. Steve from Squad State joins us to talk about Returnal, and it sounds 110% my jam. And it's an awesome conversation because we talk about the highs, we talk about the lows, and the one thing that I love is I hate standard reviews with the scores. I love a good conversation. Yeah, because you kind of understand what the game is, and so we have a conversation of like, Returnal is like Memento with aliens, and I'm in on that. So yeah, go check that out. We also talk about PlayStation's investment in exclusive PS5 games, The Last of Us Part 3. Do we really need it? The DICE Awards, all that jazz. You all know it's over at the Trophy Room Show over on YouTube, the Trophy Room Podcast on Apple Podcasts. Tim Apple, I've beaten you again, you son of a gun.
Good for you.
Now on Spotify again as well. Everything, all the feeds are starting to work as normal, and I am so happy about it. May is going to be a huge month for us, so we have some big announcements coming in on Monday.
Nice.
So yeah, I've been getting 3 hours of sleep constantly for the past week and a half. After Monday, I can breathe a hefty sigh of relief. It's gonna be really cool. So definitely check us out. PS Trophy Room on Twitter, Mr. Badbit on Twitter, all that jazz.
Well, thanks for being here, definitely. And VJ, why don't you give us an outro on where people could reach out to you on social media and what else you got going on, brother?
If you feel you can stomach more of my address, you can find me on the Stubbs Midweek Gaming on a Wednesday.
Nice.
I just wanted to say nice to meet you, Josh.
Likewise.
It's been a pleasure to be on a panel with you again, Mav. I hope you're keeping well. Mr. Badbit, just to let you know that I glean a lot of my talking points from your energetic and informed perspective. You are my muse on more than one occasion. And,
I love it.
And Boom, as always, your work behind the scenes for each and every show sparks my thought process. Without the spark, or the invite, I should say as well, there is perhaps no podcasting VJ. And I'm already looking forward to next week's show. So thank you very much, and everyone have a great weekend.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for being here, brother. Definitely, you are a super important part of this podcast, and we love that you're here each and every week. Everyone, listen, this has been a great show. I got to thank the super chats that came in. I mean, they came in a massive abundance. You got Boom on camera almost the whole show, something I normally don't do, but I got called out, so I had to respond. Right, so didn't want to just not be on camera, but thank you again for the generosity that continues to come in. Of course, I want to say something that's important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you, and that's something that my dear old dad taught us when we were kids. And I think now more than ever, it's super important. He used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.